So, I love crime dramas. I'm a big fan of them. This is a broad spectrum of different kinds of series. You know, we have period pieces like Boardwalk Empire or Peaky Blinders. Then we have psychological crime dramas like the Nordic Noir. We have The Killing. We have The Bridge, or its American counterpart. Nordic Noir has also stemmed over into British series like Fortitude, like Broadchurch, a very melodramatic series. Today, I'm going to be talking about, in my opinion, one of the best crime dramas of the 21st century. This is The Sinner. What I'm going to be focusing on today is how emotion is incredibly important, not only within this series, but within crime dramas as a whole. So, The Sinner has two series out on Netflix. The first one came out in 2017, the second one came out in 2018. Each of the different series are based around a different mystery, a different killing, and the process from then on out. Each time in series 1 and 2, it involves a very mysterious case. It's very confusing as to what the motive is behind this. At first, there's seemingly no motive behind the killing, and I find that in itself an interesting concept. These series aren't about dangerous serial killers that are out on rampages murdering left, right and centre. They're more grounded and psychological mysteries about seemingly normal people. So, I've seen both series, but I accidentally watched series 2 before watching series 1. Luckily, they are, as I say, very different, and they don't overlap much at all. The only things you really notice within series 2 are some discussions that relate to the case in the first series. So, The Sinner is based on a book that I haven't read, written by Petra Hamesvar. It's a very odd German name, so I can't really relate it to that, but it doesn't really matter anyway, because I'll be judging this as a TV series, not as a book. I think a true adaptation should be able to transcend the format it was originally created in. So, the first series stars Bill Pullman as Detective Harry Ambrose, and let me tell you, I despised Bill Pullman in Independence Day. I thought he was awful and cheesy and ridiculous, but I've got to say, he fits this role perfectly. Just absolutely perfectly. He plays, surprise, surprise, a kind of depressed, anxious detective that has trouble talking to people and finds that his life's just in a bit of a constant mess, and he feels trapped all the time. And he does this brilliantly. Being someone that suffers quite severely with social anxiety, Bill Pullman has a very subtle and nuanced performance, and he does a great job. I've got to say, he does a really good job. And in the theme of emotions and how they affect dramas like this, I think it's incredibly important to have well-written characters. And why is that? Well, because if the characters aren't well-written and well-defined and have depth and their own flaws, but they also have good sides, then how are we supposed to grow attached to them? You can grow attached to characters you dislike. You can want bad guys to win. It's all about creating well-defined characters that suck you in and make you want to support them. So, Detective Harry Ambrose is looking into a case involving a young mother played by Jessica Biel. Now, I think Jessica Biel has a lot to do with the production of this. I can see that she's an executive producer, and I think that's good, because I've noticed that a lot of female actors that are finding it hard to get work, a lot of good female actors that are finding it hard to get work, are now writing their own scripts and then putting themselves as one of the characters. And I think that's a great thing to do, because it's really shocking, the divide between males and females in the movie industry, particularly with directors. Name 5 of the best male directors in your opinion, and then name 5 of the best female directors in your opinion. I bet you could barely name 5. But this character that Jessica Biel plays, again, a really unbelievably deep character. There are so many layers to her character, and that's what the series is all about. It's all about looking into who she is, looking into her past, and trying to unravel this mystery of why she would do the things that she did. By the way, I'm not going to be giving away any big spoilers, but I am going to be talking about like the main plot points, which isn't anything you can't see in the trailers. It's based around her committing a murder out of nowhere, and no one understands the motive behind it. She's just a young mother with a kid. It's very confusing and everyone's shocked and doesn't understand it. But that's why the mystery is so interesting, because it's not your typical thing. It's not like this is a psychotic serial killer. It's just a pretty average woman. And this is the same for the second season, but I'm not going to be talking too much about the second series. A lot of people say that the second series is better than the first series, but funny enough, I thought I would have thought that as well, because it's the first series that I watched. But with the first series, I just got sucked in like there's no tomorrow. I just absolutely adored it, and the way it starts ramping up towards the end, you know, I love that about crime dramas, the whole whodunit aspect, and finding out key pieces of information, then getting further and further into it. It's great. Now, how does emotion play a large role in The Sinner? Well, for me, what defines the difference between entertainment and art when it comes to films and TV series is that a piece of entertainment can be, you know, a good story or whatever, but it becomes art when you are using every aspect of the format to create these emotions and feelings and environments and all that kind of stuff. So I think there should be good cinematography at play. I think there should be well thought out set design. There should be well thought out characters and all of that kind of stuff. And with The Sinner, it comes in abundance. We have really fantastic filmmaking techniques. There's a lot of empty space used when there are shots being done, notably with Biel Pullman and his detective character. When he's often talking to people in the case, there will be a big space above him, and I feel that this is cinematography being done to show how much weight is being put onto Biel Pullman. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know, but that's part of cinematography. There are some really interesting camera movements as well, and this I noticed straight away when this character, the mother played by Jessica Biel, committed this murder. The way the camera work is done creates more tension, it creates more of a feeling, and I absolutely love, and I don't even know how they did some of the shots. It's just the fluid movements of the camera really impressed me, and I liked that a lot. But it goes further than that. We have this fantastic soundtrack, really great soundtrack and sound design that is used perfectly. In this series and the second series, they use this kind of structure where you will have two parallel timelines, the past and the present. Like, sometimes I don't like when that's done, when it always goes back to flashbacks as if they can't explain things enough in the present. But it is definitely done in a good way in this series, because that's the whole point of it. It's all about unlocking these memories and going back to this character's roots to find out the motivation behind the killing. So there are lots of these dream sequences and looking back into old memories, and I do love the way that it's done. It's done in a really interesting way, especially with this series, because the memories are all out of place. They're all disjointed, and not only are you trying to work out what the memories are, but you're trying to work out why she can't remember these things. It's a really fascinating structure, and I was so impressed by the way it was done. This is a lot of TV series and films get called psychological thrillers, psychological crime dramas. This is in every way a psychological crime drama, because it uses aspects of psychology in the way that it works, and so does season 2 in a lot of ways. With season 1, as they're trying to unlock these memories, they're using these hypnosis techniques and all that kind of stuff. But I studied psychology in college for a little while before I left, and what we were studying were false memories. False memories is where you may have an event that looks as clear as day in your mind. There was a car crash, it was a green car that crashed into a blue car, but in actual fact if you were to go back to that day, it's a different coloured car. So you remember different aspects wrong. And with this series, as they're trying to unlock these memories, sometimes the flashbacks are wrong, and I love that. That's really interesting, because then it puts you in the mindset of this character. You start to understand why she feels so disjointed, why she's so afraid and confused. There's so much emotion locked into her, but it's being repressed and we don't know why. It's fascinating, it's great. And all the while, there is this wonderful use of music and sound design. There's a brilliant scene where she's trying to get to sleep, but she can't stop thinking about this music that is very important to the event and the killing and her past, and it's booming in her head and she can't sleep. And I can really relate to that from times when I've been desperately trying to get to sleep, but I can't stop thinking about these bad things. I can't stop worrying. And it was used in such an effective way. Another thing is this wallpaper that's very relevant to her past, and she keeps seeing this wallpaper and it keeps sucking her out of the environment she's in. For example, there's a scene where she's really afraid of having sex with her current boyfriend, and we're not really sure why. Did something happen to her? Was she abused? And as she's trying to get into it, she closes her eyes and zooms into this wallpaper and she kind of snaps out of it. And I can again relate to that. It's done in a very effective psychological way to put you in the character's mindset. You become, as I say, to feel confused and worried and as paranoid as she is. And I think it's done in such an effective way. So, I would give The Sinner Season 1 a 9 out of 10, without a doubt. I think it's just utterly fantastic. Now, Season 2, I'm not going to talk about it as much. I just want to say a few things, because it's not as clear in my memory either. Season 2 goes into a very different type of story, but again, it's about a murder committed by someone, in this case, a young child. That just really adds to the whole, what the hell, why did he do this kind of thing. And again, as it goes through the story and it goes through past events, flashbacks and memories, you start to understand things. Now, this series has the lady from Fargo Season 3, the policewoman, and I hadn't seen Fargo before The Sinner, so The Sinner was the first thing I'd ever seen her in. I think I preferred her in Fargo, but she was still pretty good in The Sinner Season 2. Now, Season 2 of The Sinner goes into some cult stuff, and that's really cool. There's a lot of hypnosis involved in the way this cult does things. It's called The Work. It's like this deep trance-like meditation they do, because they're all about these new age methods of psychology, very, very dodgy methods of psychology, as you start to learn the more you know about this cult. I shouldn't really call it a cult, because that's not really what it's called in the series, but it's the easiest thing to describe it as. So there's this sound that's used when they're doing this trance-like meditation. They use this kind of, it's like a metronome. It just plays this deep kick drum sound repeating over and over. And that, again, harkens back to shamanic practices, shamanic journeying. You go on a journey with your spirit guide and you would be listening to a shaman using a drum. It's a very specific type of drum, because the way the skin is used and stretched out, it gives off a very deep tone that is kind of like a binaural sound. So it puts your brain, it changes your brain activity into different types of waves and patterns and things. I don't know too much about it, and I don't know too much about the legitimacy of all of that, but I think there is some sense behind it, because I've done both meditation and shamanic journeying using binaural sounds and drumming, and it definitely enhances it by a long shot. I'm kind of getting off the subject here, but there's a lot of emotion used in both these series, and it is done by the camera work, it's done by the sound design, and I just think it's incredibly important that those creating films and TV series uses the medium to get the desired effect, instead of just shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, and having just wide shot, medium shot, wide shot, really standard boring stuff. You should use the visual medium. Anyway, that's my little bit on the sinner and crime dramas and emotion in filmmaking. So I hope you've enjoyed watching. I'm trying to get better at doing these movie review type videos, but I'm not great at getting the structure right and stuff. I'm going to start writing scripts in the future because I feel I go off on tangents and ramble a bit. But I hope you've enjoyed watching anyway. Thank you so much. If you have enjoyed, please do leave a like, subscribe if you want to help support me on my channel, check out my Patreon or my Twitter, all that good stuff. Take care guys, I will see you in the next one.